Hey everybody, welcome back to 608 Fab. I just got done with grinding leaves and doing all that winter, fall, or pre-winter fall work, yard work, garbage, and started working on the Jeep a little bit before the wife and I get together and hopefully go out for dinner tonight. This is going to be the start of probably a multi-episode Aces Fusion EFI install on a small block Chevy on the Jeep buggy thing. So I see a lot of video. I really don't see a lot of videos actually out there of legitimate guys like me putting an Aces system on. Everyone, I shouldn't say everyone. I have stumbled across a couple Aces videos where there's no Aces banner hanging in the wall on the wall in the backside, and things like that. But they're actually, I question the videos a little bit. Like I say, I've watched a handful of them. That's what helped me choose the Aces setup. And the reason I chose Aces, every one of these brands, in my opinion, whether it's Holley, Phytech, Aces, have their own problems. So that's why I've stuck with carburetors this far. I did the Edelbrock, ran that, tried the Quadrajet with some mods, and they just let us down, right? I've gotten to a extreme enough wheeling that for what we're doing, I cannot keep enough fuel in the carburetor, or I get too much fuel in the carburetor. I'm flooding it out. I'm leaning it out with the extreme angles we're at. And the last trip to the 15-hour nightmare ride in, I can't remember, the Flat Nasty, proved that we were beyond the capabilities of an EFI or a carbureted system. And I ordered Aces. So they all have their issues in my opinion, right? And what I liked about the Aces is one, cost. It is the least expensive system out there. And I figured in the back of my head, by the time I bought a Holley system, because Holley should be the best, it's the biggest name, it's the most expensive, I can buy two Aces systems. And when I say that, I legitimately can buy two Aces systems and have spare parts in the crawler hauler. I can have a spare fuel pump, spare temp sensors, spare injectors. I can just legitimately place this order again, which there's about $1,000 in this box because you catch their promo deal and blah, 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 and order it without the handheld controller and all that stuff because it doesn't need that to run, and legitimately buy a second one of these things. So that's why I chose Aces. And after I drive this thing around a little bit and get it tuned in, dialed in, whatever, and we start traveling again, there's probably going to be another one of these boxes in the crawler hauler. Because we have to travel. So the closest place for us to go is about 4 hours from home. And my biggest fear is we get 4 hours from home, we get an hour on the trails, and the buggy lets us down. I carry enough parts to rebuild nearly everything on this. So that's my game plan. That's the biggest reason I chose Aces. So I'll show you what we've been working with and where we're going with it. So right here on the bench, there is your atypical Edelbrock carburetor. This thing, lowered float level. I had tried the off-road needles and seats. They didn't work that good. But performed quite well with just a lowered float level. And there's a passage under here that vents and links the two float bowls together. I put restrictors in there. So honestly, until we went crazy, this thing did really good. However, what this thing was failing with was with the low float bowls. When you'd stand on the throttle for more than about 10 seconds, the fuel pump couldn't keep up and refill the floats fast enough for what I was sucking out of them. So that was a little bit of an issue. Could have been a fuel pump issue, but even on flat ground, this thing just, when the secondaries would open, she'd run out of fuel. Carburetor number 2, go behind the Aces box. This is a tried and true Rochester Quadrajet carburetor. This is actually off of a marine application, so it didn't have the vents. I think I talked about that in one of my former videos when I was swapping this thing over. This thing out on flat ground runs like mad. All right, it's got the classic Quadrajet bog. At extreme angles, it stays running a little better than the Edelbrock. However, when you stand this thing up on its ass end and you need to give it the southern bump to climb a greasy wall, it just shuts off. And I think it is because the way the needle and seat is in the forward portion, or excuse me, not the needle and seat, the main jet pickups are at the front of the bowls here. And I think when we stand this thing up, we get such an extreme float level that when you open the butterflies on this thing, there's no fuel at the mains. Because this, you could roll back down, twist the key, and it would pop right off. So it wasn't flooding, it was leaning out, and it was literally, it would shut off. And most of what we do, Southeast style wheeling, that just doesn't work. If I could just gently crawl up everything, this thing would be money. But because we got to point the nose in the air and punch the throttle, failure on this one, which made me buy the Aces. I started already stripping things off the back here. So we got a cool panel that I made right off the bat. This is a 10-gallon, I don't know what that was, 10-gallon spun aluminum gas tank. And it has treated us really good. I created this vented cap system. Normally the cap just vents out underneath. I sealed that up and then drilled a hole in it and put an anti-rollover vent in it. This whole concoction, it's worked. It's worked. It's never let us down. And I'd honestly keep it if it wasn't for the fact that it's only 10 gallons. And I've run it out of fuel a couple times. There's no gas gauge on it. And there is no return line ability. And with EFI, you got to have a return line. So that thing right there is leaving the buggy. Cool little wall hanger. Cool little dune buggy thing. Something on a, someday we'll do something neat with it. Or I'll sell it on Facebook. Motorcycle's gone. That went off to a museum up in Madison, Wisconsin. And this is the fuel tank that we're going to be using. So this is made by Jazz Products. I called Jazz Products directly to order this because I couldn't find it with a return line setup on like Summit and things like that. The folks at Jazz are awesome folks. I talked to a gal there, don't remember her name sadly, but she put this whole package together and told me it was going to be X amount of dollars, and my pants fell off. So I said, wow, that's a lot more than what they sell that same tank with a question mark at Summit. And she says, well, yeah, it's a lot less expensive to buy through our suppliers or, you know, wholesalers. And I'm like, beautiful. She gave me the part numbers of everything that she had we had talked about. And she says, yeah, just go on Summit and order that stuff up. It was less expensive through Summit. It shipped direct from Jazz to me. I laugh about it, but hey, they're set up to, just like Revolution Gear was when I did the spool a couple weeks ago, they're set up to utilize their suppliers, which is awesome. So this fuel cell, 18 gallons, damn near doubling my fuel. There is the part number. They talk about warning and grounding the cell. Comes with a gas gauge, so now we're actually going to have a gas gauge in it. Comes with 2 feed lines. One of these will get capped. One of them will actually feed the electric pump. And then she set me up with this guy. So this is the fast flow fitting, and we're going to take this fitting, figure out where we want it, drill a hole in the tank, and install it. So this will become our return line from the fuel system after the regulator. This will become my vent. I'll get that anti-rollover valve on it. And it's just got the big, this is pretty slick. Very easy, very giant hole to fill this thing up. So, reading the notes on it, you're supposed to flush the tank before you run fuel through it. So we'll work on doing that. But gotta get this guy out first. Drain the fuel out of it already, and put that in my my Hemi out there, the hauling truck. So that was kind of nice to get some cheap gas. I had tabs like these guys welded in here to hold the panel that was on the back. That's gonna have to go because we're gonna actually have to extend the frame out to cover that fuel cell. So the back of this is going to get modified. Hopefully it no longer looks like a Cybertruck, because I've had a couple people tell me that it looks like a Cybertruck because the way that comes back down and just cuts off on the ass end. So we're going to get a little straight bump out, straight down, straight back, capture that. And it might actually give me kind of a cool spot to like set a spare tire on top of everything someday if we ever went out to Moab or stray too far from the crawler hauler and want to carry a spare. So let's get the tank out of there. All right, so I got that spun aluminum fuel tank, and got the Jazz 18 gallon just kind of hanging out, right? So as you can see, this 18 gallon can sticks out past the bottom of the Jeep about 6 inches. Fittings coming out of the back side of it, and tank hold down straps kind of hanging out in there. So what I need to do, this guy here, this tube, I have no intentions to remove. I do have intentions to take these tabs off and get rid of them across there, because I'm not going to have a panel over the top of this in this area anymore. I'll ultimately have a panel, you know, across the back here for license plate, taillights, etc. And like I say, this guy's gonna just kind of hang off the back end. A couple things I got to do, because this is a drop sump, right? So by a drop sump, the bottom of the tank is up here. This hangs out the bottom. Normally you just punch a hole in the floor of your car and all your fuel pumps would be underneath it. But because we're setting it in a buggy, you know, it's different. So I'm gonna end up sliding it out a little bit more. However, I'm going to notch this cross member. So that'll be the first piece of this puzzle, is putting a notch in this cross member to clear this sump, and then plate that all back in on the top side. So this is stupid thick, way overkill. So by taking a little bit out of it, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And then I'm going to start building around the fuel cell cage extension, more or less. So I'm going to bring DOM tubing out on both sides, across the back for a new bumper. I should still stay easily within a negative departure angle, or 0. And then I'll end up plating it from the underside of the frame here up to whatever tube work at a little bit of an angle, hopefully. And then bringing things off, kind of just build a battleship ass end for this, and then put all my fuel pump mounts, things like that nature in it. So that's actually where we're going to leave off video number 1 here on the Aces EFI install. And I got that spun tank out of there. I got that tank drained, and I didn't wear any gasoline all over me. So I'm calling today a win, and I'm going to stop and go to dinner with my wife before I end up having something not convenient go wrong. So great day. Worked in the yard at home, worked in the yard at the shop, got the fall cleanup done, and got the start of the Aces EFI install. So thank you for watching. Again, this is going to be a multi-episode series. To split it up, I'm going to try to be as detail-oriented as possible for stupid people like me that are scared of EFI, scared of computers, would rather live with a carburetor, and then I will continually update along the way. So check back every week or two for a little progress. Now that we've fallen into the fall season, the winter season, I'll probably pick away at this over the next month because we ain't going wheeling anytime soon. Maybe New Year's? That'd be kind of cool. So head south for a New Year's ride maybe. But that's kind of my goal. We're middle of November right now. If I can have it running by New Year's, that'd be awesome. And if the weather's permitting, it's not nasty cold and salt all over the roads, and I'm willing to throw this thing on a trailer and haul it, maybe we'll shoot for a New Year's ride. So thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more updates on the Aces EFI install.